Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is going on, Chip? What's going on, everybody out there? I'll tell you what is going on. You know what's going on? XRP
Funny.
is going on.
Is
Money
it?
is
Is
Ripple is
it?
going on. You know what? We're reading through some of these articles that we're going to go over tonight. And you know what I took out of it is that crypto's last stand in the US is indeed Ripple. The final act. That's it, Chip. That is, we reached that intersect. That's going to be the final outcome, yay or nay, in the U.S. for crypto. The SEC needs to hear from retail investors. The time is now, Chip. The time is now.
Time is now, Jeff. Let's stop messing around. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
The time is now. That is right. That is the time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to On the Chain. Chip and Jeff here again for another spectacular, amazing show where we will bitch about how ridiculous it is the SEC even exists as a regulatory body and how ridiculously dumb most governments are. That's kind of the theme of our shows. And they're all governments. And they're all dumb. And they don't care what you want. As long as they're getting rich, everything's cool. But anyway, listen, thanks for being here. Guys, hit the like, subscribe button, and that notification bell, which you will occasionally be notified. Also, too, if you're feeling extra generous, you can always send us a super chat, or you can share the show with your friends, neighbors, and enemies. Turn them into a friend. Never know. But that's all I want to say, guys. Or you can click the join button and support the show, or go to onthechain.io, support us there as well. Jeff, what do we got tonight?
Join the website. Go to onthechain.io and join up.
Yeah. Now, if you go to onthechain.io, just go there now. Everybody, do it now. Do it now. Do it live. And go there. And then you click on, just put your email in there. And that way you can see all the different articles and stuff we talk about the show. We don't do spam. We don't believe in spam. So don't worry about that. We're not selling lists. We don't but everybody go there, scroll down and put your name in there and your email, and then we can send you cool stuff.
Yeah, what's up, Brett? In Nebraska.
What's up, Braska? Just gonna call him Braska for now on. Braska.
Man, you know what? Hydroponic Allen says, I hate the ads on YouTube. You know what? Everything I watch now on YouTube, ads are popping up once, twice, 3 times in a show.
I hate them as a viewer, Jeff, but then as a creator, you go like the 38 cents you get off, like we don't, honestly, the channel does not make really that much. It's not a significant amount, really. Most of it comes from you guys. I mean, your support is really what keeps the channel going, quite honestly. And but there, look, I mean, every little bit helps is the way I look at it. I mean, so as a creator, yeah, it's good because it pays the bills around here. But as a viewer, I'm not so happy about them. But I'll tell you what, Jeff, I was watching a video, a YouTube person that I really like a lot outside of the crypto sphere. And I'm telling you, man, I got to the point where I was like, if you put 2 minutes of video ad, 2 minutes of video ad, and it was like you had to sit through them too. And I was like, come on, man, let's not be crazy. Because even Jeff and I thought, well, can we make it so you at least that first ad you have to watch it? No, we make them skippable because that's
it's crazy. Yeah, man, it's crazy. I'll be, in the mornings walking the dog, I'll put my phone in my pocket, put YouTube on to listen to something.
Bam.
And then immediately there's like an ad. I'm like, are you serious? Now I got to take my phone out of my pocket. Now I got to click the thing. But Jeff Pate from Oregon, everyone give a quick shout out where you're tuning in from. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about that XRP and that Ripple and crypto's last stand. I think we might even talk about Shiba Inu.
I don't think so, Jeff. I don't think that's in the.
That might have been the point that we're going to talk about.
I'm not sure if that's in the cards tonight, but
we're going to talk about the Shibarium.
I did want to start off with Stu Alderati, General Counsel from Ripple. And I saw this tweet right here. So Stu put this tweet out. I think it was yesterday, maybe. No, it was a couple of days ago. Yeah, he said crypto lawyer public service announcement. Chair Gary Gensler, has again proclaimed that every cryptocurrency except for Bitcoin is an unregistered security. He now must recuse himself from voting on any enforcement case that raises that issue since he's prejudged the outcome. Antonu versus SEC in the 8th Circuit, 1989. So he's actually citing the court case here, Jeff, which is fantastic. By the way, that got 790,000 views. Then Jeremy Hogan came in here and he said, but Chair Gensler was obviously speaking not as the head of the SEC, but in his capacity as a long distance runner and lover of orange juice. So it's okay. So then I posted this rarely seen shot of Gary Gensler in his jogging suit downing some orange juice, and then some people said, well, that doesn't even look like orange juice. That looks more like a it's
definitely not orange juice, man. That kind of looks like a scented candle, maybe.
Yeah, Jeff said it looked like an orange scented candle. So just missing on Twitter. So much fun that goes on there. And then John Deaton chimed in and said, brilliant move. It's fair to say that Ripple's general counsel wasn't always an in-house counsel. Somebody's tired of playing defense. Boom. A big swing and a home run right there. I love how...
But it's time, Chip. It is time.
It is time. And, I love how he talks about, the Antonou versus SEC 8th Circuit prejudging the outcome. Not a good thing, Chair Gensler. And guess what? You got to recuse yourself. Dopey. Dopamine. Dopamine's a good thing, though. But Dopey Gary's not a good thing, Jeff. Gary.
You need dopamine.
You need the dopamine for sure. No doubt. No doubt.
No doubt. All right, what's next? What do we got here? You got anything from library by any chance?
I do have something for the library, Jeff. It's good of you to ask that. Jeff, it kind of ties in with your earlier statement. When we're thinking about saving crypto, no pressure, but it's really all on Ripple at this point right now. I mean, it's really going to come down to this ruling, the way things are going, which may be why the SEC is ramping it up so much. But if you look at this, so Library put a tweet out that said, by far the best chance for cryptocurrency in the United States is Ripple. There are other players in the US that could be playing offense, but they're not. This means basically all on XRP, actually Ripple, to save us all. And then no pressure or anything. That's follow-up tweet. No pressure, Jeff. What are your thoughts on that? Well,
man, it's interesting considering that on the on the decision regarding library, right? So if we think about the fact that the sale on the secondary market were not to be considered as securities, but when this case started, Chip, two plus years ago, we started along this path. And there were quite a few statements even back then, and we referenced it, we talked about it, that the entire focus right now of the regulatory clarity for crypto in the US was all hedging on the outcome of this one case. And so obviously if it goes to settlement and everything just kind of washes away like it never happened, they said, let's all settle and make believe that this never happened, then obviously we're still in for some long-term turmoil. But Brad Garlinghouse coming out early on and saying that the only way they would agree to a settlement is if the selling of XRP, if XRP was not to be considered a security. That was the term of their settlement. Daddy G, on the other hand, has come out and specifically stated that he believes that the majority of digital assets are securities, going so far now as, and we're seeing the content and the context of his opinion as they ramp up and wage their war against crypto in the U.S. market, trying to undermine and trying to kneecap crypto at every step. But it's not necessarily going to impact the crypto companies because most of them are going to flee overseas, Chip.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's bigger than all that. I mean, you think about, if you're thinking like, is there something behind it? There's always something behind it. There's always the story behind the story. And in this case, there's the biggest threat right now is the fact that the SEC is probably trying to stave off for the legacy establishment as long as they possibly can, because they're a major threat, right? So decentralization is a major threat, Jeff, right? And something you brought up earlier, especially if you take that you'd brought up the point earlier today when we were chatting about AI and arbitrage, and then you take AI with arbitrage and crypto. And what have you basically done there, Jeff, by combining those?
Man, think about right. Think so. I referenced this earlier. But if you think about the decentralized nature of things, right? So if you have decentralized financial infrastructure, you include AI to it, you include a little bit of arbitrage, and you even include a little bit of the staking, and so all of these things together kind of does away with much of the power play that is in the hands of the financial institutions that are either controlled by government or are the controlling powers of government, whichever side you want to look at it, right? So the way the government would control is by making these big decisions on winners versus losers. The way the government is controlled is via the lobbyists and all the money that pours into the coffers of the candidates that run for Congress, both the House and the Senate and other political establishment types. So there's such an intermingling here, and this is really serving as a threat, as a to the overall establishment. But it's interesting, Chip, because why is it that the UAE is getting ready to open up a free zone for crypto, and that's what they're focused on? Why is it that England is looking for a direction and path? Singapore, Japan, and the list goes on and on. Even in Hong Kong, they're looking for a path towards normalcy, while in the US, we see them trying to undermine stablecoin, promote the digital currency, the programmable digital currency, which incidentally, we're having a battle being waged right now between the red and the blue teams. And the red team is taking the stance that we got to step away from central bank digital currencies and the centralized controlled mechanisms. And the blue team is all in favor of it.
It seems like they're in favor of a lot of things, and Jeff, something that I was noticing, well, I've been noticing this all along, but what I've realized is that if you are going to go past legislation that later is found to be unconstitutional, and you swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, immediate dismissal, right? Or grounds for impeachment, or grounds for treason. One of the three. It kind of has to be that way, because why? You buy yourself a little runway. It's like all these things get passed. If you think about what the blue team's been doing a lot of, they pass these things, and then it takes a little time to go through the regular circuit court and then escalate up to the Supreme Court, and then they buy themselves 9 months, maybe a year of unlawlessness, right? Unlawfulness. So I think that at some point that's somewhat of a thing. Devon Steve says, hey, Gensler didn't say he didn't say all our securities, which he is biased and should remove himself from any prosecution, except for him being prosecuted.
Say all. Yeah, he did say they're all securities, but yet somehow he's stumbling over the Bitcoin.
Right. He keeps walking that back. It seems to be like in some of the things. Michael Murphy says the outcome could depend upon what happens to the escrow. I'm not in concert with that. That's not my belief system, because the escrow itself, nobody can take it. There's no law on the books that would allow them to basically usurp the escrow, Ripple's escrow, what is it, Jeff? 500, there's 100 billion. So there's 50, roughly around 48 billion or so in escrow. A lot of people have said, well, they can come and take that, and that's ultimately what they want to do. Well, how? What's the mechanism for them to take that escrow? Because they want a court case? They can say, like, you got to give us all your escrow.
Well, similar to what they did with gold at one point, where they outlawed the holding of gold bullion.
That was private citizens, they outlawed it, and not everybody complied. There was a lot of people that never complied with that. Yeah, and then what they did in 71 is they said, whoa, they're speculators, and people are like so busy, just came out of the summer of love, and the 60s and the 70s are rolling around, and they're like, what? Think about the dumbest reason you could ever come up with, Jeff, for unpegging the US dollar to gold. It was speculators. We're worried about speculators, but don't worry, it's only going to be temporary.
But here's another one though, Chip, based on what Michael's bringing up. So imagine they find a mechanism to say, you know, they're going to move in, and this is part of the outcome of the case. You know, based on the settlement, that crazy things happen. You know, they have to give up the escrow because of whatever reason. Now, the validators have control over the outcome of that escrow. So let's say there's an immediate then vote of the validators, and they vote to burn it. Not all the validators.
But you're making the assumption. But you're making that initial assumption that there is a mechanism. I've checked. I don't know any mechanism where they can go in there and claim that 48 billion in the escrow. There's nothing. And first of all, they can't even get to it. And you did bring up a point. The validators, yeah, they could burn it. But the bottom line is there's nothing. Even Ripple can't go in there. I mean, since they passed it a couple of years ago, the validators and they take 1 billion out,
no control of it,
whatever they can sell or not. Yeah, they have like less than, I think it's 4% now. So completely decentralized. At one time, maybe it wasn't. You could argue that, but I just don't see there's any mechanism, any law in the books that would allow them to do it. And then the judge would have to agree to it. And if this gets escalated, which it probably will, Ripple gets an initial win. Let's say the judge splits the baby and says, okay, you got to pay a fine for early days because it wasn't 100% decentralized. So that we give the win to SEC, but you know, based on what we see today's XRP is no problem with the secondary market, none of this garbage, right? So SEC could escalate it if they want. So it could go to the appellate court, and then after that, it could escalate up to the Supreme Court. It's going to take a little more time. I mean, like in the Howey case, the Howey case won the first 2 rounds, and then they lost in the Supreme Court. So, you know, that it's possible it happens, but
yeah, I mean, crazy things will happen though. Yeah,
I don't see it happening, Jeff.
Well, especially with the current, you know, tone. You know, things would have to get crazy. You know, they'd have to make some kind of claim that they don't have valid. They would have to go after ownership. They would have to say they don't have valid ownership of it, or they would set the fine at such an unprecedented level. You know, I mean, they would set the fine at 50 million or 50 billion XRP.
Who would set the fine? The judge? No, not going to.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, that would be. But let's say if there was some sort of an outcome, so 30 million is what Library paid. They paid 30 million. Can they do it in the billions? How much did what was the bank? It's in our talk, but they just paid $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
In fines.
Doesn't matter. They're not going to be.
So, maybe that would be their way at tax. If they couldn't get all of it, but let's say they said they wanted, you know, 2 billion, 3 billion in fines and penalties.
Yeah, but a lot of this conversation about getting at the escrow is like because they need it for the Fed now, Jeff. Don't you understand? I mean, look at all those nut jobs out there. Those crypto guys are like, you must watch this video now. And to be fair, we do some of that, but we always explain it in our videos.
Wait a minute, that's in our thumbnail. No,
it might be in our thumbnail, but don't worry about that. So it's like, you need to watch this now. Wait till the end. You won't believe what happens. It's like, all right. And so then everyone's like talking about, I mean, you had the Fed buyback program, which I always thought was a joke. I was playing along. I thought it was funny for a while until I realized these people are serious. Then it's like, oh, no, you don't understand. They need this technology. They must have it. It's necessary. And I'm like, okay.
Chip, that would be the push, though, for the reason why they banned gold and, you know, bullion being held by private citizens, because the government wanted, you know, full control and regulation over the supply.
I'm not buying it.
But if they couldn't go after, but if they do go after it, they would have to go after private citizen.
Yeah, listen, I'm not saying Mike, I'm not saying you're wrong. This is a common thing I've heard for a long time. Let's talk about the mechanism that the government can do this. Let's talk about that. There are laws in the book still. We're not a completely lawless society. We're getting there. We're inching towards socialism and all these other isms every day. But show me the mechanism where they could go ahead and a ruling can come down and they say, you know what? Just take their escrow. Just take the escrow and everything will be good. It's probably not going to happen. I don't see that being a possibility.
Well, again, if they go after the escrow, they have to go after private citizen holdings.
Right there.
Go after all of it.
So K-Head's bringing this up. He said if they want to, they have to shut down the ledger, but that's not going to happen, right? Decentralized.
They can't do it.
Right. That's a good point.
It's all over the world.
Correct. They can't take it down that way either, you know? So I'm just looking through some of this other good stuff here. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good comments in here.
Yeah, there's tons of comments.
There's so many good stuff, so much good stuff in here.
A lot of good topics.
And then this one here. The SEC is not going away easy. I actually think they're going to go away easier than most think. I actually think the reason they're gearing all this stuff up is because they're going to get slapped down pretty hard because, you know, you can only go against the will of the people for so long. It's just like proven throughout history. And then you end up on the wrong side of history. So, Jeff, I almost see that this whole thing, this is like a ruse. And like, we're going after stable coins. We're going after that. Look, this comes down. What was that video that we watched when Gensler was on stage and he was talking to, what's his name? And he was talking about, you know, the bankers are complaining and they're crying. And who was that he was on stage with? Can't think of that guy's name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the most epic videos ever in history because, gosh, I don't know why I can't remember his name. His face is right in my mind, but somebody will maybe throw it in the chat.
Big guy.
The big dude. Yeah.
Really tall.
And he was like, he was talking over Gensler and he was like talking really loud on the mic. And it was like over modulating. And it was like,
he's like, no, you're wrong.
Like, you can't, you're wrong. No, listen. And Gary Gensler's like, and he's going, no, first the bankers, okay? They're going to fight it. There's going to happen. God, that's the most epic. I've watched that so many times. It's just the most delightful thing on video. And this before Gensler, this is like, I think 2018, 2019, all spot on. Every single bit of it. True, Jeff. You gotta love it.
So here's another thought. Michael's bringing up. It could make Ripple execs the most wealthy in the world. So the question is, if it goes to some form of settlement, goes behind the scenes, Ripple becomes the epicenter of the movement of all money, and that becomes the Fed, central banks, the government. They all come and they sit down with Brad Garlinghouse. They say, look, here's how the outcome, here's how it's going to go. You know, we were going to use your technology. We're going to move all money. And this is going to be our central technology. We're getting rid of, forget SWIFT. We're going to put all of our weight behind you and behind your solution. And as part of that, you guys are obviously going to do really, really well. You're going to accomplish everything you want to do with your, clean, carbon neutral agendas. So we're going to support your clean carbon neutral agendas. Mm-hmm. And as a part of that, we want your escrow. Yeah, but it's not going to be just a hand over the escrow. It's going to be a different solution. So you have the Fed, you have different mechanisms. We want you to release $1 billion a month to the Fed. Take your $1 billion and you're going to inject it into the Fed because that's what they've been doing. Take that $1 billion and use whatever they need to help facilitate growth and expansion. And normally it's about 100 million or plus or minus, and they put the rest back and it rolls back into the final month and It keeps going. But what if they say, no, take it, you're going to inject you every month. They're not going to take all the escrow because like you said, there really isn't a mechanism to say we want it all. They're going to say whatever the thing is, we want you to help, bolster our new economy. And we need your liquidity and we need $1 billion a month.
I don't know, Jeff. Anyway, Luke was close. Luke got Tom Draper, but it is Tim Draper. Thank you for that, Roland, for the
Draper. That's it.
Tim Draper, he went off on him. It was the greatest thing in the world. I loved it. This one here too from Killis says, we are completely lawless right now where agencies and politicians can run amok. No one does anything about it. The other thing this is the other thing, Jeff, sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, I look around and I'm like, I'm the only one seeing what's going on worldwide. Like they're blowing up all the egg factories, weird chemical spills happening everywhere. I'm the conspiracy theorist. Everything's under attack. They hit Miami. They hit Ohio. They're heading over to this other country where there's a lot of bad stuff going on, and we're just giving them money hand over fist. But they can't even visit the residents their lives have been upended in Palestine, Ohio. And everything is burning. There's another train derailment with hazardous chemicals today. And everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. It's just fine. That little meme of the guy burning up. It's like, fine, Jeff. No one seems to be worried about it. Massive attack going on. and everyone's just like sleeping, or just maybe they've had their fill, Jeff. Maybe they're just so fed up. They're just numb. I don't know what it is, but it's
I think
bizarre.
people just got to a point. Yeah. I mean, it is crazy that things are being ignored, on such a
Everything's
scale.
such a scale. Look at this right here. So Eleanor Terra put this out. She said the SEC said it would not be speaking this year at an annual conference well known in legal circles. As a result, the event called the SEC Speaks is being canceled. Wah, 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 wah. There you go, Jeff. So John Deaton said, and I was hoping to attend and ask a few questions. Oh, well. That's why they canceled. They're running away. So here it is right here. This is this was in the Wall Street Journal, SEC. How about this, Jeff? You canceled the only conference that's named after you, the SEC Speaks conference, and then the SEC declined to speak. What is that all about? That's crazy talk.
Brilliant.
Jeff.
Oh, it's great. Well, it's the SEC.
And it was a 2-day event. Regulators of Wall Street lawyers gathered to discuss the agency's rulemaking and enforcement record. But, I think, honestly, there's a lot more behind this, I think. If you look behind this, if I see why would they could incriminate themselves. They could say the wrong thing because, they're not speaking in official capacity, but they kind of are if they're speaking at the SEC Speaks conference, right? So their attorneys said, guys, you guys need to step back. Nobody can go to this conference. No one can talk on stage. Every little word you say is going to be scrutinized and blown up and publicized everywhere. So, Jeff, what would cause someone like the SEC, who spoke at this conference every single year, except for the year with one of the biggest court cases of the century in the SEC v. Ripple, the library case, and all the assault on crypto in general?
Yeah, could you imagine? I mean, you just fathom, them coming out to speak. There's so much stuff. I mean, you referenced it before. There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes that we're not necessarily privy to. It's a lot of money that's being moved overseas. There's a lot of progress being made in the crypto space overseas. There's been a lot of attack against our economic stability here in the United States, but you're also seeing an unseating of a lot of that power here in the U.S. So the balance is coming back. Remember, months and months ago, we referenced the pendulum, and that pendulum swings, it continuously swings. Typically a pendulum, when it hovers, it kind of swings in that, that center point, goes a little left, a little right, but typically will hover in the center. But when it's artificially pulled backwards to one direction, which it has been now for a number of years, pulled drastically to the left, and now the it's been released and it's moving. And as it moves, it's going to come back further past center, and it's coming back up. But the thing is, the casualty in the middle, in the interim, as it's coming back, and we're starting to see the pieces fall one by one, both from a financial perspective. We're starting to see them suffer and fall, and they're trying to hold on with everything they've got. They're latching on to the last bastions of the hope that they have in their old school financial institution. Yet, and we don't want to knock, the financial institution is what got us all here to begin with. But when the power is held, so tightly, and they keep attacking retail, they keep attacking the people that are investing. And now we've seen it way too many times where they choose winners over losers. And guess who ends up carrying the burden? It's always the people. It's always us. We're the ones that suffer the burden, the ones at the top. And so for some reason, the politicians are coming out of this thing super, super wealthy. And there's something drastically wrong with that. You can't go into politics and become a multimillionaire making $180,000 a year. It makes absolutely no sense. You cannot be privy, and they are privy. They're privy, to basically everything. They're privy to every little secret and every piece of investment advice. So they invest and they make riches, and that can't continue any longer. And that is the threat. So it's not necessarily, hey, we're so worried about cryptocurrency, we're worried about decentralization. No, they're worried about their slush fund, because these guys in Congress and in both in the House and the Senate, and then you have these appointed officials. The appointed officials are the worst. because they don't answer to the public. They're not elected. They only answer and they're beholden to those who put them in that position. That's who they answer to. So if they're put in there by an elected official, that elected official is controlled by the lobbyists. Who do you think controls the appointed one? And so that's the assault. That's the offense against cryptocurrency and blockchain technology right now. And so that battle is being waged. And fortunately, we have people on the front line ship like Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, forget about the politics of some of the chaos that they support, but what they represent from a decentralization in the crypto space. And then you have other powerhouses that are coming to play, like Congressman Tom Emmer and Warren Davidson and many others that are there, hopefully, to roll out and show us that they're willing to stand up and present some strong bills in front of Congress. And it doesn't stop there, because now they have to take the battle and they have to go from the House to the Senate, and they have to get some of their senators over there on board with this. Man, it's so crazy, right? I mean, fire it up, Chip.
I like when you get fired up, Jeff. This is Greg. Just sit back and enjoy
We
myself.
both have this thing up too. That's hilarious. We both have the exact thing up. What spot do you have up?
I've got a spot, but I've got the original spot though.
All right, I found a different one, but yeah, let's play the original one because the original one's good. K HUD, what is up? SEC slave every concept.
There you go. Yeah, well, it was Legendary put this one in there, but as you know, when you put a soccer mom style video up there, that vertical format, it's just not good, man. I just can't. I can't play that. So I was looking for the original one, but it looks like you found it, Jeff, because I see the bigger version there. And kind of right on, we were thinking about around the same way. But before we get to
I'm not sure if I'm not right. I think I'm on the spot, like in the.
Well, search for it, because I'm going to do this story right here.
I'm doing it based on his hand signals to see how he's yelling at him. But I found a spot over here.
But he was yelling on the whole video. That's the best part.
But the whole video. Hang on. Let me just play this little bit here. Hang on.
Times in the last 3 times in my life, and I'm only 30 years old. And I said, "Oh my gosh!" He said, "Yeah, well, the government either
right."
Bitcoin prices would be maybe go from the 64,500 it is now to $250,000.
That's not it, Jeff.
No, it's not.
21.
But he was attacking him here too. There's so many great.
Yeah, when
just kind of harsh words about crypto and your prediction.
So here's the way I look at it. Well, first, you might want to listen to me, because when it was at 230 on air, I predicted that it would go to 10,000 in 3 years, and 3 years almost to the day it hit 10,000.
Tim, I'm here listening to you.
Okay.
I love you can't hear Gary.
So you may want to think, and I'm predicting 250,000 in 4 years in 2022. So, so I look, those guys.
Chip, you know what's interesting? So here he is. He put Gary kind of in his spot, right? Because Gary was kind of making fun of him, but he puts him in his spot. He said, look, it was spot on. Now it's interesting to see, right? We have to note that the slowdown in the crypto space, we're seeing an assault by the powers that be against cryptocurrency, against blockchain in the United States. It's a global phenomenon. Everything was growing. The market was moving rapidly, but since 2020, obviously XRP has been stagnant. And it is interesting to see that trajectory, Chip, where Bitcoin was going, hitting the $60,000 mark. And there was that momentum that could have kept propelling it up to 100,000 just based on its rapid pace. But you have to have some pullback. Sometimes you have pullback, and we've seen it throughout, the 10 years, 11 years, 12 years. There's been, ups, and there's been some, significant downs within the space. But hopefully you have that. We can find it. I'll keep looking, but it's great, throughout this entire conversation. But this is the point, is that he's putting Gary Gensler in his place, and Gary Gensler, what an attitude, to come into the SEC, wanting to undermine the digital asset space.
Yeah, and he played it out so well, Jeff. Then he was like, "Yeah, I really care about crypto. I You know, he went and got that gig at MIT, like he was supposed to fake everybody out. And they're like, "Oh, he's a crypto hero. He knows everything about crypto," only to tear the whole entire industry down. It's just pathetic, Jeff. I mean, it's pathetic on so many levels, man. Let's see. I'm gonna hit this and. See, man, I'm trying to do this, Jeff. But before we do that, I wanted to get to this other story. Thought this one was pretty significant. I do have it. So Jake Chervinsky, which, you know, Jake is sometimes he's a hit and miss here. He is the chief policy officer of Blockchain Association, which is into blockchain for almost just a couple coins, but they don't really serve the entire blockchain. But he put out a really good statement here. Jeff, get your opinion on this. He said, "I'm old enough to remember that when most Bitcoiners believed in economic freedom and open market competition. I can't believe the number of self-professed Bitcoiners now saying some version of, I'm fine with the government picking winners and losers as long as the winner is my bag." Right? How crazy has this gone? It was like, remember economic freedom, anarchy, you know, another way. And now they're like, and then all of a sudden they were super happy the banks and were involved, that they were trying to circumvent the banks. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, you know, it is pretty amazing, you know, so, and it is true. And it's funny. I'm old enough to remember. But it, you know, it's funny though, because in the beginning and when you would listen to the Bitcoin maxis, you know, what was the one thing that they singled out against XRP and the XRP community? They said, well, first of all, XRP is centralized and it's the banker's coin, right? Yeah. And because you know, at the time, obviously, you know, the Bitcoin maxis, they were all about the, you know, the anarchy of it. It wasn't just about decentralization. It was about, we want to do away with all banks. We want to implode the financial systems, and it's all going to be run on Bitcoin, and that's it. You know, we want, you know, we want full liberty from everything, and it's all Bitcoin all the time. They weren't so far from, you know, the notion of, you know, of moving to a decentralized framework. But it was interesting though, because they talked about the decentralization of it, but they wanted to be centralized in only Bitcoin. They said, and so they start attacking everybody else, and you can't have it your way. And that's the whole point of the whole decentralized infrastructure. It can't just be one. You know, you have to have multiples, and every one of them is going to have a specific purpose. Bitcoin does some things, I was going to say, well, but you know, it's a store of value. It's not moving money rapidly the way it was intended. And, you know, and there are other assets that can do it well and will do it rapidly. Bitcoin isn't it. You know, Litecoin came, and, you know, Litecoin's trying to move into the, you know, do whatever it's doing. You know, back in, you know, you think in the heyday when you had Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, and all of a sudden you had a full departure. You know, after that, you had all the ERC20 tokens, and there was just so much development in the space. And if it wasn't for Ethereum, we wouldn't really have had significant growth in the altcoin space. You know, because everything was, you know, in the beginning it was so Bitcoin centric. You know, hence you had, you know, the spinoff and, you know, having Litecoin and BCH and, you know, all these others that, you know, what happened to them? Where was the actual development? Where was the growth in the building and the technology if it was just Bitcoin? You know, that's where the smart contracts and the ERC20s, they started looking for better ways. And then Ethereum wasn't the right solution, you know, because it was still slow and super costly with all the gas fees. And obviously the problems within the Ethereum Foundation. And everyone's striving for control. You know, it's interesting, Chip, because if we go back and we look at the battles that were waged behind the scenes between Apple and Microsoft, I think, you know, and you know, there's movies that are on it now, and you can read the biographies, but I still think, you know, a lot of people don't realize, and I think people would be shocked at how, you know, passionate they were, but how vindictive and vicious, you know, the environment was as each was jockeying for position.
That's right. And of course, the winner was Apple. So there you go. It all worked out. It worked out in the end.
Android.
Not anymore, Jeff. Google. The winner was Apple.
The winner will now be neither. The winner is gonna.
Android is a shell. It's
The
a
winner will be AI,
It's a bad interpretation.
and you'll be happy about it.
Yeah, Jeff, I like when stuff like this happens. Look at this here. This is Coy Sheffield, and you're like, well, who the hell is this guy? Well, I'll tell you who he is. So before we get to that, let's do this one first. So there was a story out in Reuters. Now, we've talked about Reuters before, okay? The news is not always correct. Don't want to use the terminology here, but let's just say sometimes they're not always right, which is 90% of the time. So Reuters put out this story: Visa, MasterCard pause crypto push in wake of the industry meltdown. Sources. There you go. Sources, right? So sources say, so on February 28th, U.S. payment giants Visa and MasterCard are slamming the brakes, Jeff, on plans to forge new partnerships with crypto firms after a string of high-profile collapses shook faith in the industry. People familiar with the matter told Reuters. This is always going to be your best tip-off right here. People familiar with the matter. Because there are no people and they're not familiar with anything. But this is like the straw man argument. It's like, no, people familiar said this, right? So these are those FUD articles that put up to try to just create this fear and loathing out there. It goes on to say the crypto industry saw a stunning reversal of fortunes in 2022 as bankruptcies of majors, FTX and BlockFi rattled investors. Look at the way this is written, Jeff. This is supposed to be a news source. They rattled the investors, increased regulatory scrutiny on the sector. Both Visa and MasterCard have decided to push back the launch of certain products and services related to crypto until market conditions and the regulatory environment improve, said the people who asked not to be named as talks were confidential, and they are better known as the people familiar with the matter, Jeff. But then reality hits, and it hits you pretty hard. So here's Coy Sheffield. He's the head of crypto over at Visa. And the guy who is the head of crypto at Visa says this story is inaccurate as it pertains to Visa. Here is the reality, right? We continue to partner with crypto companies to improve fiat on off-ramps, as well as progress on our product roadmap to build new products that can facilitate stablecoin payments in a secure, compliant, and convenient way. Despite the challenges and uncertainty in their crypto ecosystem, our views not changed that fiat-backed digital currencies running on public blockchains have the potential to play an important role in the payments ecosystem. This is the time to build. Anyone building at the intersection of crypto and payments, please reach out. We would love to work with you. I don't happen to Jeff, but Jeff just dropped out of here. He's like completely gone. But this is what I love about this, because in a matter of minutes, a matter of seconds, as soon as this article dropped, there, people familiar with the matter. And I don't know if MasterCard chimed in on this. I didn't see what they may or may not have said. But if you look at it from this point, he gets this little dig at the end and he goes, "This is the time to build!" ! Anyone building and this is a beautiful colloquialism. Building at the intersection of crypto and payments, reach out. I love it because it just basically is a nice way to say, go, yourself. So yeah, we'd love to work with you. And I just love how he brings it all back and brings it all home. And Jeff, I don't know where you are. You're on the outskirts over there. But this is you just taking a little breather there. I don't know what you're doing. But this guy, Coy Sheffield, just totally crushes it. And then, so Grady Booch has something to say about it. He says, views are my own, says the head of crypto at Visa. Coy, could you speak for Visa corporate here or not? I think he just did. I mean, let's not be like silly. I know the SEC spoiled this one for a lot of people. And then Jacob Franek had to say, he said we. What are you even trying to infer here? That's his bio somehow gives him license to openly lie about his employer. Make it make sense. I love the arguments people get into at crypto Twitter. This is fantastic. And then you got to just love the governor of Madhya Pradesh says, XRP is ready for a huge pump. Support crypto community. Brad Garlinghouse Rebel XRP CEO initiated XRP airdrop. And here you go with scam bot number one, because apparently Brad is like doing airdrops now, but it's on everything, Jeff. You can't get rid of it. Man,
Talking about the scam bots.
Scam bots.
I want to talk about scam bots. You know what's crazy?
You can just
this John
Did
Deaton
you
had
find
posted.
it? Man,
John
I can't
Deaton
find
posted
it. I
this.
looked everywhere for it.
John Deaton posted this video here.
you can just hear the bankers panicking right now. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen. And then it keeps going. And then they say, okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government. The press planting, they plant the press stories, they put out lawsuits, they create as much of a fuss as possible, they try to get their government friends involved, and then they go, oh God, this thing's happening.
It's happening, Jeff. And then
It's happening, Chip. Here's what's happening, Chip. TD Bank reaches a $1.2 billion settlement in Ponzi scheme lawsuit. That's what's happening. Look who they put on the cover of it.
Scam, bankrupt, fraud.
Dude, I'm telling you, you know, so you're listening to what Tim Draper's saying to Gensler, and you hear Gensler, you know, he throughout the whole thing, you can kind of see the twist of his opinion on the matter, you know, and yet they're so hyper focused. Like right now, they're so hyper focused on what happened with FTX and those issues. But yet here's such a major issue that this has been going on, Chip, since 2012, right? The guy behind it, 2012, this financier, Alan Stanford, was sentenced to 110 years, 10 years, 11 years. This has been going on. So 11 years. And Toronto Dominion Bank, TD Bank, finally agrees to pay $1.2 billion to a court-appointed receiver who will in turn pay back victims of the scheme but denied any wrongdoing. So TD says, well, we weren't involved in it. But in actuality is that the lawsuit, you know, there is that alleges that they were involved in it.
Wow.
And there are other banks involved in his fraud. And the reason why they're saying that they were involved in the fraud is because they ignored it. They could do it. They could have stopped it. It was obvious that it was happening, similar to Bernie Madoff, right? Bernie Madoff, you know, there were many that brought it to light.
Whistleblower 6 years before.
You should have 6 years before. So now 10 years after the guy is sentenced, you know, it's taken this long. But it's so funny that they put this guy in the cover. Like,
don't worry,
this is CNN, right? This is CNN. Let's put Sam Bankman fraud on here. This has nothing to do with him. This is 2012. He's probably still in diapers, you know. But here you go. Here's investors allege 5 banks: Trustmark, TD, Bank of Houston, now Independent Bank, IBTX, HSBC, and Societe Generale Private Banking, or Suisse, knew or should have known about the alleged fraud perpetrated by Stanford, and they aided and abetted the disgraced financier for how many years? 20 years.
What?
20.
What?
The latest settlement brings the total recover amount to $1.6 billion. Dude, that's so much. $1.2 billion in fines that are going, and obviously it's going to go back to the people, but they're so hyper focused on, oh, it only happens in crypto. If only you would get rid of crypto, then all the fraud would just go away. Fraud doesn't happen anywhere else.
Not
Banks
even with fiat,
do it.
Jeff. It doesn't happen with fiat. Okay, I missed this one here. Remember, this is global, which is a statement that applies for everything. Thank you, K-HUD, for that. Appreciate that. It's getting absolutely unbelievably ridiculous. Look at this here. So I did, because I had the text to that, I did find that. Here's the rest of what we didn't hear, Jeff.
And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen. And then it keeps going. And then they say, okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government.
There's another thing they do. They adopt the technology. I think
so. By the way, he's calling Gensler out for the moron that he is. This is what they do. They go after him and let's sue them. It's like this guy's got like this. He's got this crystal ball he's looking into, and he's talking to Gary Gensler and just putting him down. And then Gary Gensler's like, "But there's the other thing they do. They adopt the technology." What a doofus. Anyway, let's back this up just a second here.
Douches.
And they say, okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government.
SEC.
Or they adopt the technology. I think
no, that's at the end.
They will adopt
no,
this technology.
No, this is the last thing they do. No,
Yeah,
it's after right. It's after the press planning. They plant the press stories. They put out lawsuits. They create as much of a fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends involved. And then they go, oh God, this thing's happening. And then they go, okay, what are we going to do? How do we get it? So then they either make or buy, as all great companies do. They go, am I going to make this or am I going to buy it? Am I going to make an exchange, or am I going to make a new kind of wallet? Am I going to bring it in so my clients can use this? I know it's there. I know it's better than what we've got.
All at that stage already. I think that's where we are. I think the large exchanges, whether it's NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange, which is owned by ICE and Jeff Sprecher, who's a wonderful entrepreneur. I mean, I think the Goldman Sachs and so forth, they're kind of there. Fidelity and the asset management, they're kind of there in this next 6 or 18 months.
He has kind of put himself in a bind, whereas Jamie, but whereas Goldman Sachs didn't get into that bind, they didn't put themselves out there saying, poo-poo, this is a fraud, and poo-poo, this is the. So Goldman Sachs has been able to jump in. If you've noticed, they're jumping in.
Anyway, Jeff, it just totally nails them. He does eventually get rounded a point towards the end. He's got the Bitcoin socks on there. But just takes Gary Gensler apart, and especially when he says the press writes the articles, like the Visa one we just saw about how they're abandoning crypto. Geez, that's so weird.
Dude, there's so many. There's so you have the Visa one. Then there's another one too. So where they're pausing. This whole idea the pause on working with crypto. Where's the other? There was another one. But man, you know what you brought up, before, so you get some hype coming in, on different titles, man. At what point is too much hype, when you say something? So I was reading this article here. It said Ripple official admits to running moneymaker on XRP Ledger.
Is ridiculous.
Now, if you were to read this title, do you see this as a positive or a detrimental negative? Like he comes out and admits like it's a bad thing. How do you see this title?
Well, I kind of know what's behind it. So it sounds like there's some wrongdoing. Meanwhile, this has been full disclosure from 2018. I mean, this is full disclosure. I mean,
then he gets into it here. Chippy says Matt Hamilton faces backlash from several community members after admitting to speculation with XRP. Now, this is such a negative.
It's such a BS
article
story.
So Matt Hamilton, when he was on our show, he even talked about building and running a market maker.
Exactly.
And so he's come out and he talked about it
years ago.
Right. He commented on allegations. He did admit to it because he's always talked about it. He said, you can look at the transaction history on the XRP ledger. I've been running a market maker on the XRP ledger since 2017. I openly talk about it, including in my CV and my interview joining Ripple. This is not some grand conspiracy you've just discovered. But I look at this, and it's exactly true, because when he was on the show, we talked about it. We talked about his history getting into, and all the things led up. You can go and search it up. Go to onthechain.io and look for Matt Hamilton.
It's completely misleading, because the guy that was giving him grief about it runs his own blockchain, and he's one of these Ripple, I hope they're lose type of thing. It's just the whole thing's garbage. It's a garbage article, and it makes it look like there was some wrongdoing. And meanwhile, he's like, dude, I've been
there was none
about this on Twitter and for years. So
it's so dumb. It was this title followed up by this. It's just so bad. Why you don't have to go to that point. And I just think it was a very low point for it. You today makes all sorts of mistakes like that, but that was a super low point in stuff that I've read. What's that?
I think Chat GPT wrote that article. Put a fake name on it. I don't know.
Jeffy.
So Jeff, sometimes in life, something really powerful comes along and makes a massive impact. And that massive impact is John Deaton, who made just incredible.
Johnny D.
You talk about ripples throughout the industry, those ripple like a water just rippling throughout the industry. So something kind of cool happened. Boom! And yeah, you have to applaud this on a big level. But taking a page from John Deaton, Coinbase is gotten on the bandwagon here. And they have said, they put out a tweet thread here. John Deaton said, he applauded it. I saw his tweet, but it said, it's time to advance pro-crypto policy in all 435 congressional districts in the United States. Introducing Crypto 435, our campaign to grow the crypto advocacy community and share tools and resources to make your voice heard. Man, this is ripped right out of crypto law, and John Deaton Connect to Congress. Become an advocate today, which is great because it's now going to one of the probably most well-known and accepted crypto exchanges out there in Coinbase. They go on to say that if you believe in crypto as the potential of Web3, now the time to make your voice heard with legislatures and regulators. The crypto community has reached an important moment. Decisions being made by legislators and regulators in DC and around the country will impact the future of how we can build, buy, sell, and use crypto. We need thoughtful policy making and smart regulations so that we can continue to advance crypto and Web3 and make progress in our mission to increase economic freedom. Jeff, right there, economic freedom. This is one of the best things I've seen out from Coinbase in a long time. Coinbase will empower the Crypto 435 community with information about how to contact specific politicians. Easy. Go to John Deaton's cryptolaw.com and connect with politicians. He's already got it set up. And their local districts, what those politicians' records on crypto are, tips for making your voices heard. I mean, John Deaton made this like painless. I clicked on a button. There are 2 senators in my local rep, and one of the 435 districts. So if you love crypto, want to see it can be all it can achieve, then join us to shape the policies and regulations that will impact crypto and Web3 for years to come. And then it takes you to this page here, and you basically put your name, your address, your zip code, phone, and email. And then they'll send you emails about the campaign and text messages about the campaign. Here's why crypto advocacy matters. Crypto 435 will influence laws and policies. It'll bring the crypto community together. There's strength in numbers, as we know from the Ripple case. And will promote innovation and protect jobs. Will educate everyday Americans about the power of crypto. So I applaud this. This is a huge thing, an absolutely huge thing. Jeff, your thoughts?
It's massive. I mean, the fact that, and we knew, we kind of know where Armstrong stands on the, the bigger, picture as well. And then then he realized that he was a publicly traded company and had to walk it all back.
He did.
But obviously there were, there's some underlying behind that. And so having, now is the moment. And obviously you have to, if you're an advocate, you want your representatives to do the right thing when it comes to cryptocurrency. So having, a company, obviously an exchange in the crypto space, it comes down to the retail investors. It comes down to everybody reaching out. You can't just expect one person, getting out there. It can't just be a John Deaton, standing up. It has to be the entire community. It's not just signing on, to a case. You have to reach out to your congressional representatives, state representatives as well, because there's a lot of things that are happening at the state level. Forget about your city or town, but go to your state, because state government are starting to also work on blocking CBDCs. Because they're, the detrimental impact, or they're trying to have some sort of normalcy as it pertains to digital assets in each individual state. So you have state specific bills and you have the federal specific bills. So reach out to your state rep, state Congress, and then your federal, U.S. Congress, U.S. representatives and senators. So that's it, Chip.
That's it. Yeah, and the best thing to do is go to cryptolaw.us, I believe it is, and I believe that's what it is, isn't it? Crypto law. Let's just see where that is. It is right there. So if it's actually right here. If you go to just Google crypto law, then connect to Congress, put your name and your email in, and here it is right here. You put your info in, contact your member of Congress. Here's the subject, here's the body, enter your info, send the message. It's pretty easy. Identify, first it'll identify who your U.S. representative and 2 senators are, and then you share your story. There it is. It's already already set. Couldn't be any easier. This is how we got 70,000. I don't know, 70,000 people signed on to the lawsuit, but you have a lot of those people, I'd imagine, probably did connect with Congress. But that's all the time we have, Jeff. Look at the time. My God. Look where it goes, Jeff.
Look where it goes.
Look, I'm on the wrong
goes
side.
so
There
quick.
we go.
Chip, do you have a cool Yeti of the day to share with us?
Yeah, you had to bring that on me, man. I was like, not even.
We're like right at the midnight hour. We're at the wrap up. What Yeti do you have to share with us tonight?
Let me see what I got, Jeff. Let me look in the grab bag here. Let's see what we have. See, oh, hang on. Give me a second. Give me a second, Jeff.
Come on,
pressure,
bring it on.
Jeff. No pressure. Holy cow.
You got something.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have something here. Hang on.
See what we got. The clock is ticking. Tick,
it is, yeah.
Tick,
I got to pull it
tick,
up sooner.
Tick, tick.
Okay, so we do have something. So here, let me put this up first, guys. There is the Badass Yetis is our soon to be released NFT project. There are the Badass Yetis standing tall right there. We're going to take a look at a new Badass Yeti we haven't seen. This is the Fire Badass Yeti right here. And that's that little, as you can see, they can light stuff on fire, Jeff. They are fierce little bastards, and they can wreak some havoc. And the weird one is the meaner ones are just the opposite. The little ones that look really friendly are like, oh, hi. They will rip your throat out, Jeff, before you even say hello. So yeah, this is the Fire Yeti. Set fire to everything. You can see like the fire burning in the background right there, but there you go. Fire Yeti.
Fire Yeti.
You have it. Fire Yeti. Fire.
Sweet.
Fire.
See, this guy is so cute. He is cute. Got a bunch of the little cute ones. So sweet. That's all we got for tonight. You guys, as always, we have the best and the brightest in the crypto YouTube space gathering here with us on the chain, the On the Chain family, On the Chain community. Big shout out to the On the Chain members here on YouTube and
K-HUD for the massive support tonight, as always.
Big support as always.
K-HUD is like the the most amazing human on earth. I mean, man, and I sometimes wish you guys spread it out a little bit, because K-HUD, thank you for carrying that on your back, man.
Man, oh man. So we are here Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight's Wednesday, by the way. Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back again Saturday morning, bright and early, with a cup of roasted coffee, ground up to perfection. Nice dark roast espresso. We'll check you guys out Saturday morning for some delicious coffee and some more crypto talk. How about that?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your support. Share this with your friends and neighbors. That's all we have. Chip and Jeff, see you guys on the next one. Take care.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.